What causes dementia and how do we prevent it? I'm Bob McCauley, owner of the Watershed Wellness Center, and we're at watershed.net. First of all, you hear about the Alzheimer's, and there's another one called Lewy body disease. These are just all various forms of dementia. Dementia is where you lose touch with reality. First, maybe you forget a few people's names, and then you forget who your loved ones are eventually, and then you forget anything, and you can't function, and you lose touch with reality completely. Those are the late stages of dementia. So, or what we call senility, what we used to call senility. Well, anyway, dementia is really not caused by genes. They're looking for the genetic connection. Will I get this? My mother had it. Somebody in my family had it, and I have other people that thinking, well, maybe there's something runs in our family. It doesn't. What runs in your family are dietary habits, and not genes, and certainly not genes that are going to bring on disease, I should say. And, dementia is yet another example of a disease that is caused by lifestyle and not by genes. It's just like cancer is caused by lifestyle, not by genes. So, first of all, we need to understand what the brain is and how it works. Well, first, the brain is a delicate dance of neurochemicals and electricity. And there's things going on in there I think we'll never understand completely because it's so complicated. But there's this electrical storm going on in your brain all the time where you can imagine if you start, putting things in your body that don't belong there, which we call toxins, or refer to as toxins, and especially heavy metals, such as aluminum, because that's, replete throughout our environment. People use aluminum products all the time. They cook with aluminum foil, especially at high temperatures. They use antiperspirant, which is full of aluminum. They use antacids. A lot of them are full of aluminum. And you're constantly putting that in your body. Well, that gets lodged in the brain, which the brain is kind of like the sponge, and then it no longer can function. It's really not that complicated to understand. So, I guess the next question we want to ask ourselves is how do we prevent that? Well, there's some great herbs you can take as first of all that are great for the brain. I use them all the time. Mucuna, my favorite herb of all time. It has L-dopa. This is a precursor, or it helps produce dopamine. It also produces melatonin, serotonin, and HGH, human growth hormone, which is created throughout the brain. And that's one. Another one is ginkgo biloba. We all know about that. That increases a lot of circulation, in particular to the brain. Gotu kola is another one. Bacopa, which increases concentration tremendously. It's really an amazing herb. And so those are all feeding the brain. Those are really good to help us, maintain mental clarity. But then we got to ask ourselves, how else can we keep these toxins out of the brain? Well, first of all, I use the farm-fed sauna every single day. The farm-fed sauna really is the best way I know of it, removing toxins from the body and from the brain. You get in a farm-fed sauna, within 10-15 minutes you start sweating profusely, and you are just sweating out, herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals, and all these things that are never found in sweat at lower, normal sweat, no matter how hot it is, no matter what you're doing, you're running outside, you're sweating and sweating, nothing will make you sweat these things out like a far-infrared sauna. So I happen to go in it, 4 or 5 times a week at least. Sometimes I go in it every single day of the week. I absolutely love it. You want to make sure you drink a lot of water, obviously, while you're in there, and then remineralize afterwards. But, and so another thing we can do is drink a lot of water. Keeping yourself hydrated, keeping the brain hydrated is really one of the keys, not only to health, but it's to brain health. You've got to keep it constantly hydrated. I'll give you an example of dehydration of the brain. When you drink too much alcohol and you really drank a lot, and then you have this searing headache the next day. Well, that basically, you've dehydrated your body so much, you've dehydrated the cranial fluid that surrounds the brain, and now the brain is resting against the skull, and so you've got this searing headache, and it's because of dehydration. And it will take you hours and hours, if not days, to rehydrate that brain up there and the cranial fluid and get that brain back where it belongs. So very dangerous, actually, to drink that amount of alcohol and dehydrate yourself so severely. You'll end up with swelling of the brain and all this kind of stuff if you keep it up. So keeping the brain hydrated, extremely important. Removing heavy metals from the body, as I said, aluminum, and all sorts of heavy metals that are replete throughout our environment. We've been industrializing for 300 years, and all heavy metals are everywhere. Find lead and cadmium and aluminum. It's everywhere in our environment, and so you need to get those out. Not just say now we're all going to die some terrible death because of it, because it's possible to get those out of the body. One way is with chlorella, a green algae that binds with heavy metals and pulls them out of the body. Another one is EDTA, which is a suppository that bypasses the liver and is very effective at grabbing onto heavy metal ions and pulling them out of the body. As I mentioned, the far-infrared sauna. And of course, in general, just stop putting things in your body that don't belong there, such as cooked foods. Cooked foods do not belong in the body whatsoever. You need to remove that from your diet as much as possible. You don't need to become 100% raw. I'm as much raw as I possibly can each and every day. Many days I'm 100% raw. Sometimes I'm 95% raw. But I don't go out on big cooked food binges and start eating all this cooked food or anything. But keeping that out of your body, raw foods detoxify the body, cooked foods deposit their toxins in the body. So if we do these things and we have a healthy lifestyle, we keep ourselves properly mineralized, you'll never get dementia. And some of the herbs that I mentioned in this video, those are also very good for memory and concentration and just keeping mentally sharp. There's no reason why anyone should ever get dementia if they follow the simple rules that I laid out in this video.